reached consistent.
And Max Law is one of the reasons I actually think Misfits aren't a discount G2, and they're now trying to adapt. I was talking to Max Law a little bit before this game and this series. He was saying they're trying a few new things out of the jungle. This seems like the right matchup to do it against Ninjas in Pyjamas. And you can already see Zac banned away. Obviously, seen that very commonly on 715 and 14. Cho'Gath as well, another potential jungle hit taken away by Misfits.
Well, Elise as well. Caitlyn's the next one we're expecting. And I want to follow up on this Max Law talking about a different style. But maybe we need to see the champions that are locked in first and discover what happens next. Again, no surprises on the blue side. That Ignore is the recipient of target bans Thresh and Rakan, his two most played champions, his two most successful champions, and with Caitlyn left up and available, insta-lock here for Hikyu.
Yeah, very rare Caitlyn being left up now. We could see the likes of the Varus picked into this. We obviously see high priority on a lot of AD carries that can at least contend with Caitlyn in the laning phase, but Caitlyn will obviously have that dominant lane and then scale well later on into the game. Quite rare we actually see this, but this leaves now jungle available for Misfits. We've got to look at what other S tiers are available.
Maokai is the only one that's screaming to me. Some flexibility in there. Jarvan up as well for Alfari. He's been definitely a Jarvan one-trick for the last couple of weeks.
And that would be more of the same out of Misfits. That is what Misfits have been playing a lot. The Maokai, the Jarvan. Now, with Tristana locked in, Braum, I feel like goes up in priority as well with the Thresh gone, with the Rakan gone. These big supports that can at least peel for that Tristana.
Are you surprised by this Orianna? I mean, AD carry in mid already?
It's a big pocket pick for, not even a pocket pick, it's just a staple pick for Power of Evil. Very good defensive, team fighting mid laner, very easily blind pickable, and you can see Ninjas in Pyjamas now trying to bring some team fight of their own. This Maokai can have that massive impact with the Nature's Grasp. I actually like this as a matchup, locking in that early blind pick Orianna, very good.
All right, let's see if Power of Evil can keep up his undefeated streak. 6-0 in the summer split. His KDA, by the way, 44 kills, 6 deaths, 46 assists. A 15 KDA on that champion. It is staggering. But that's now coming up into a Maokai, Caitlyn, Talia. This is a very scary combination already.
It is very scary if they can actually get there. Misfits on this side of things actually now locking in both of their solo laners. With this Gnar now planning to ban away some of the trickier matchups. We've seen the Kled come out. Haven't necessarily seen it from Prophet. He hasn't got any games played on the Kled, but you have to imagine that's one pick that people have been practicing, and there's not too many other matchups into the Gnar that are available.
Let's see what Prophet decides to run. I mean, technically that Maokai could flex as well. Has been played by Prophet twice.
And isn't too bad. Like, Gnar does bully the Maokai around, but the sustain you get in the lane, you can build towards armor early on, towards the Righteous Glory it builds out now. So you can kind of deal with the Gnar in the lane.
And you can see, talking about that lane matchup, Misfits with the Jace ban, kind of signaling they're not expecting that Maokai to go top. Prophet has played Jace twice this split, many weeks ago actually. And I remember him playing that hyper split push style, something that Prophet has not done as much in recent weeks, and arguably is why Ninjas in Pyjamas have looked a little better over the last couple of weeks of games.
And IP now taking away the Gragas, one of these champions that can easily get to the backline, cask the Caitlyn out of safety. Looking now towards supports as well. No real presence after the first round of bans. NIP put two bans towards supports, but we've got the Braum available, the Alistar is there. Obviously no Kalista for that really strong combo, but still an option.
Let's see what they decide to run. A lot of possibilities here for both Misfits and Ninjas. The last two bans, Renekton and Jarvan, so primarily top laners. Obviously Gragas for the jungle.
Now, this is a Jarvan ban away from the jungle as well, because of course with the Gnar locked in already, they were trying to remove some primary engage. Now, Rengar Orianna would give them some sense of engage, plus also early game prowess. It would also fit what we were talking about with Max Law wanting to shift things around a bit.
A couple of different options on the table, and at the end of the day, Max Law will lock in the Rek'Sai. Just taking a quick look, that is the first Rek'Sai for him this summer. Let's see what he can do. Front lineup still fits in with tanks.
Yeah, I think the thing about Rek'Sai, though, is you can get into the lanes so confidently and comfortably early on. A lot of the players, at least from scrims, talk about how good Rek'Sai is at punishing, and, oh, my jungler doesn't understand how you can just get into my lane and win a lane already in the level 3. Now, I'm wondering whether Max Law will be able to have that impact. We've seen that from him in the past, particularly on the Lee Sin. Maybe that's what Misfits are looking for.
Well, Misfits are going to be looking for trouble because this comp from Ninjas has got a double damage threat, 181 AP, and so many tools to keep them alive. There's frontline, there's shields, there's disengage. Maybe not the strongest hard engage, of course.
It's a scary composition, of course, as you were talking about. Not the hardest engage up front. Well, Blitzcrank is a champion that can try and drag a Caitlyn out. Of course, in the laning phase, Caitlyn kind of difficult to deal with a Blitzcrank. Janna, if you get hooked as well, you've only got one shield. You can wait that shield out and then try and punish on the back end. Not exactly the most orthodox bot lane out of Misfits, but an exciting one nonetheless. Hikyu and Spraddle probably just going to sit behind their minion wave for the first 20 minutes of this game and wait it out.
Yeah, take advantage of that range. The bonus AD from the Eye of the Storm for Janna, that'll help out. Just keep bullying Ignar down. If Ignar's too low to rocket grab, well, then he's not going to rocket grab. Well done, Trevor. Play-by-play statement.
Hey.
What do you think of the rest of the Misfits team comp? Because we talked about the bottom lane. You've got sort of the tanky front line in Rek'Sai and Gnar, and pretty well-rounded, it feels like.
Yeah, very strong if they can actually get those into those fights. Of course, you got the Rek'Sai, the Gnar combo with the Orianna as well. But I feel like Alphari is going to want to spend the majority of his time out on the side lane against the Shen, try and push him in, create that opening. And then you can try and pick and choose your fights with this Blitzcrank. Maybe not the 5v5s that you're looking for. You're looking for more 3v3s earlier on in the game. Try and catch one of the ninjas in pajamas before they're grouped together, before they can pull off that big Protect the Caitlyn composition.
Protect the Caitlyn composition enabled Lord of the Pit Nagne on his Talia, which looked fantastic last week. Ninjas in Pajamas taking on Misfits Gaming, as we're on Saturday here in week 9. For Misfits Gaming, a spot in the playoffs, a quarterfinal shot is at stake. Ninjas in Pajamas can play spoiler. Because of course, NIP, if they beat Misfits, it keeps Rockat's chances alive, but it will be a difficult task, as Misfits have got some tools to deal with this, right? Because you kind of want all of NIP to remain grouped, and Blitzcrank's going to say nope, and you can see, well, they're going for some early shenanigans.
Yeah, what this aims to do is by at least having Maxlor on the top side, if somebody spots him, they'll think, okay, he's starting top side, maybe we've got a little bit of emphasis now on bottom side. If the bottom lane runs through, Misfits will look to try and get a hook. Problem is, there's no vision on this for Misfits. They could be waiting around forever here. That's why Alphari and Paravi will back away. This isn't an all-in strategy. It's just at the beginning of the game, they know they can get Alphari top side to help Maxlor after the recall. This is just trying to punish any kind of lane start out of Hikyu and Spraddle.
Unfortunately, no one there, so the Gouda play, as it were, does not come to pass. I'm looking at the rest of the minimap, and fairly defensive starts here across the board. No real shocks or surprises.
I'm sad.
Why are you sad?
I'm sad. Sprattle's not running the full solo queue and also LCK build for Janna that we've seen out of the runes. Not going the GP5 and you go coin and you just get all of this extra gold using quintessences and yellow gold. Kasing actually was tweeting about it last night, about how he's on board the hype train. Nope, Sprattle's just going very standard, mix of AP, mana regen, armor, a little bit more towards the laning, not just about getting himself gold and rushing towards Ardent Sensor, which is an unbelievably strong item.
It's about the teamwork, of course. And that's why Shook has got a nice hard leash here. Hikyu and Sparkle are going to help out with the Brambleback. So early level 2, he cleared out the Raptor camp, and Shook is now making his way to the top lane. Top half of the jungle, rather, I should say. And we get ourselves settled into what's a laning phase start to week 9.
Easier said than done. Oh, hook misses, but you see, it forces out the shield of Spraddle, which you don't want to trade into the shield of a Janna. One of the drawbacks that Janna will always have is quite a high shield cooldown early on. If you can trade outside of that cooldown, it's 9 seconds. Not the highest, but if you trade when the shield is not available, you actually can get these big beneficial trades early on. You see level 2 now for Misfits, trying to get another hook. It's really not likely you're going to hook often against a Janna and a Caitlyn. They're going to sit so far back in the lane that realistically too difficult.
Well, if and when it happens, it could cost a flash. You can see the drop down on your screen. Misfits this summer, 1 win, 8 losses when playing on the red side. And keeping a quick glimpse there, Ignar, I can only assume his rocket grab missed.
Yeah, it's on
and
cooldown.
Loses the trade.
horribly loses a trade. You can see that he's trying to push forward to try and get Sprattle or Hikyu, but trading into that shield when it is available is going to hurt you so much. You can see Hikyu even opting for the Doran's Blade for extra damage early on. Shook's now coming down to try and compound on this. Now, if they can get a flash, that would be perfect because there's then no aggressive play. Hook does land on Sprattle.
He played the perfect bait. Shook goes to flash engage, gets the Bramble smash down, and Ignar, first blood, easily secured by Hikyu. Shook does this nearly every game.
Yeah, Shook very good at getting into lanes early on, and this time NIP able to compound that lead they got. It was Ignar missing the hook. One of the dangers is the back end of that trade. Ignar drops very low. Didn't use his flash because he knew he was dead, but this is Hansama and Ignar trying desperately in the lane to create an opening to try and shut out this Caitlyn. In fact, they've done the opposite. Caitlyn now has a kill, nearly double the CS, and that's a really tough position to be in. It accelerates that BF sword buy for Hikyu. We'll see how Hansama and Ignar can actually contend with this.
That lane was already so difficult to win. The range advantage on Caitlyn plus the damage amplification of Janna. You just have so much zone control. It's like a really, really tall boxer putting his hand on a really, really short boxer. Kind of like if Deficio were to hold Pyra's forehead.
Medic and Pyra.
Pyra would never be able to swing and smack Deficio.
That's true. That's true.
And then Medic could do the same to Deficio. Medic could hold Deficio's head. And then you don't have the reach.
I don't want to be in this boxing thing. It'll probably go as well for me as the Conor McGregor-Mayweather fight will go for McGregor, but that's my personal sense on that. But on this
a lot of people feel
game,
that way.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's like almost like watching NIP and Misfits. When a lot of people feel like Misfits will be the ones coming out on top. But you look at the early game.
All right, good.
Ignar finds Sprattle. Was that blind?
I think that was indeed blind.
I'm going to check on mine. We were way too busy about a boxing reference. And Sprattle's in trouble still.
Power fist to the face for Sprattle. He decided not to flash over the first wall. Whoa! Mountain Dragon helping out. That was so close.
Calm down, MJ. He's still okay on this one. Sprattle gets out. I'm watching back on my screen. We were way too engrossed with our own. Ignar did just get a blind hook by the looks of things.
Fantastic.
And then the rest of that engage, as you said, Mountain Drake ended up helping out. NIP a little fortunate on that one, managing to stabilize off what was a very difficult moment.
And of course, no flash on that Janna means the laning phase gets a little easier for Hans and Ignar. They can play more aggressive. Nagne got the seismic shove into PoE, but they're trading evenly. They're even on CS as the mid lane is a little bit of a farm, but I want to see Nagne impact those side lanes.
Me too, and that's where this matchup can really be won by Nagne. It's difficult to beat the Orianna so hard that she's out of the game, but look, Nagne will push early on. Alphari manages to actually catch Prophet mid-dash.
All right, still flash available for Prophet. Boulder toss so close. But Alphari wins the 1v1 for now.
Very close calls, though, in favor of Misfits, nearly getting the kills. And it's when Nagne is unlocked on the map. You can see now he's past that level 6, has the Weaver's Wall available. We'll see him get up into one of those lanes. But as you mentioned, he might be needed in a defensive stance with the Janna flash down, the Shen flash down. Now we have to look towards Prophet's first ultimate as well. He's just teleported back into the lane. So it's very difficult now for him to actually make NIP win a trade, because they're likely to lose the tower on the other end, or at least a lot of damage down if Alphari can continue pushing.
And just in case anybody has forgotten what a Caitlyn bottom lane and a Shen top lane means for the game, well, it means there's generally parties in the bottom lane.
Yeah.
And the only people that are invited are NIP, because Shen will come down, Nagne will come down.
It's a pajama party.
And generally speaking, the low mobility Blitzcrank is the guy they're going to jump on.
Yes, Ignar did hold his flash earlier, remember, so that it's not like he's completely without a paddle, but at the same time, Misfits, this Blitzcrank kind of needs to get rolling a little bit in this game, because the worst thing that can happen for Misfits is NIP don't give up kills, don't give up anything, and Hikyu manages to scale into the game. I talked a little bit about itemization earlier. He didn't go for the BF sword. He actually went for an early recall into boots, and what that means is he can continue to push, get a little bit of that extra attack speed. He knows he's going to end up very strong in the late game anyway, and they're able to just continue to push forward. Also gives him a little bit of survivability against that Blitzcrank, but at the same time, look how he's always behind the minion wave. Almost impossible to hit a rocket grab on a Caitlyn that's behind the minion wave.
Yeah, definitely the case. I think this may be one of those kind of few games where you think, I'll expand that thought in a moment. Nagne has the potential to cut off Alphari, but with Na's ability to jump over the wall and flash, you're going to need a little bit more CC than
Yes.
just that Shadow Dash from Shen. So Nagne backs away, he's eaten the fruit, and both blue buffs will be donated. So it's an even game. 300 separates the two teams now. Literally just that first blood gold sitting in Kiki's back pocket.
Now, there was the opportunity for Nagne to look towards the top side. He didn't, because there's a pink ward in top river for Althari. Now, they didn't know whether Maxlaw was certainly on his blue. NIP pinged it to say this is likely where Misfits are playing around. And you can see Maxlaw has now gone into the bottom side. So NIP, without full information, didn't want to make that aggressive play top side, because without the flash on Prophet, it's difficult to actually compound that into a full kill.
That means Misfits playing this game fairly safe. I'm looking at the rest of their vision stress. You can see a couple of wards in that bottom quadrant of the map. The pink ward you've mentioned in the top as well. So Misfits working with a fair amount of information here. Playing this one nice and safe. And I want to see what impact, first of all, Nagne can have when he decides to go. And also if or when Ignar decides to start roaming. He's just picked up those boots of mobility. Obviously, the impact that he could have catching some of these other laners.
Yeah, he's likely to look towards that mid lane. That's normally where we see Blitzcranks roam towards. You pair it with the Shockwave from Orianna and the... Oh, speaking of Shockwave.
All right, Prayseeker comes out. Nagne takes a lot of damage. Shook has jumped in for the fight. Ends up getting the summer heal from Nagne. Nothing more than that. And just some lane presence, something we see fairly often from Orianna players.
Yep, just making sure Nagne burns one of his summoners for that. He's able now to maybe catch Nagne without a heal. One interesting thing as well for the later this game goes is we talk about how Misfits will be looking for the Rek'Sai combination with the Orianna and the Gnar. Well, Janna does a pretty good job of denying that, because if you've only got one ability to close that gap, like the burrow from Maxlaw and the tunnel, then Janna ult away, Q denies a lot of that engage. You've got the Maokai ultimate to deny the engage as well. Nagne can even wall people off if it starts getting too treacherous.
Let's take a look what Ignar's up to. Not looking for any sorts of grabs, pinging out Shook's position. And you know, you talked about this, the potential of Janna resetting those fights. There's going to need to be a level of communication and coordination from the Ninjas and Pyjamas squad to really take advantage of this team comp. Make sure that when Shen decides to go for that Shadow Dash or Shook decides to engage, it's not the cleanest of initiations. They tend to be, like secondary engage.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why I want to see how well NIP can play that out.
The thing is, NIP, I think, for the majority, don't need to be the ones being active on the engage, and I think that actually will benefit them the later this game goes, is NIP don't have to make those difficult decisions, because naturally their composition can defer the Misfits engage. I want to take a moment while we were looking at bottom lane to talk about something that Janna's probably shouldn't do as much in solo queue that we're seeing Spratl and Hikyu do. Spratl is very commonly shielding Hikyu to give him the extra, currently 28 AD. And then they pilt over Peacemaker the wave with the Q from Hikyu. Now, that is great to do in competitive play because you push the wave a lot faster. Not recommended in solo queue if you're not on communications with your AD carry, because you need to be able to read the trades from the enemy. And that's what NIP are doing well. They know Ignar can't land a hook, so the shield is fine to be used on pushing the wave. In solo queue, you can't always guarantee that, so maybe don't go that route. Don't follow Sprattle's lead.
And of course, pushing your lane without communications always going to be risky.
Cool.
All right, sidestep on the rocket grab. Spratl and Hikyu tend to go aggressive afterwards. Ulti comes down from Ignar and they trade. This time round, pretty well. Monsoon still available to Spratl, so if the fight drags out and there's more damage than they can deal with, well, they'll reset it. Here comes Shook. All right, bait last time was rocket grab and Spratl ate it in the face. Ooh. This time it will be Hikyu. He's caught out and Ignar's backing away. Gets a lot of damage down from the Piltover. We quickly jump to middle and Nagne's the target. Oh, manages to miss the Void Rush. Gonna get flashed forward to the Furious Bite. And Maxlaw gets the first for Misfits.
Maxlaw with the long range on the ultimate, leaps in, gets the kill, and all of that is a product of the fact that heal is not available from Nagne. Remember, the shockwave used in the lane by Power of Evil pulled back Nagne earlier on, about 2 minutes ago. Now Nagne without a heal, can't quite escape out, barely enough damage from Maxlaw to kill with the flash into the E, and suddenly you finally compound the lead on those summoners. Nagne now struggling in that middle lane.
Oh, difficult situation. Misfits seem to be winning, doing well in the mid and the top lane. We saw Power of Evil 6-0 on this champion, plus 17% damage rating. So on average, he's dealing 20% more damage than every other Orianna player in the league.
Looked like Paravivo managed to catch Nagne inside an animation there as he was casting his abilities to try and go a little bit aggressive there, at least defend against the push. So Paravivo, you mentioned how strong his Orianna is. We've seen this split after split. Favors the Orianna, the Syndra, always looks very strong on this. Even though we always talk about Paravivo as one of the guys that brings out these weird and wacky picks, he always goes back to the standards and always looks very good on them as well.
He does. I just want to see him pull out the, what was it, Wit's End again? No, Nash's too. All right, Rocket Grab onto Hiku. Still got Flash and Heal. Eye of the Storm comes down, but Hansama and Ignar, they're starting to take over this lane. Pickaxe, BF Sword, and that Zeal. So it's a pickaxe of additional damage over Hiku. And Ignar's finding the targets over and over, but he's not getting the summoner's stress.
NIP are respecting the bottom lane. No, they haven't got the summoners yet, but NIP still backing out. They have the flashes, they have everything, and this is because they know Misfits are about to push the tower down. Orianna had roamed out of the lane, and that's what caused NIP to back away. So good communication between them.
Well, it's 14 minutes in. We've not seen the successful Stand United aggressively, because of course, Prophet started channeling onto Nagne just before Nagne was killed. Nagne as well, been unable to roam every time we look middle. Power of Evil's got him under pressure every time we look top. Prophet is under pressure from Alfari. So Misfits have got a small gold lead, and it is primarily from the CS advantages in both top, jungle, and mid.
I'm glad we're looking at gold leads, Trevor, because you know what is a beneficial thing for NIP? They are the best team when it comes to gold leads of 15 minutes in their wins in the entirety of the EU LCS.
Okay, well, I will expand on that in a second. Nature's Grass comes down. Hansama is dropped by a headshot of Hiku. And just to reiterate that again, Ninjas in Pyjamas have the highest goal difference in wins in 15.
They do.
Because they only have 2 wins. It's a small sample size.
They have 4 game wins. They have 1 series win. Oh, hook lands.
It does indeed. The silence comes out from the static field. And Ninjas in Pyjamas, they're not relenting. Tower first blood is what they're looking for because they conceded the dragon. And there's no one here to defend it. So this will get picked up by the Ninjas in Pyjamas.
Yeah, NIP are going to crack this tower. It's a little bit after that 15-minute mark, which means this is a game where they were behind. But, you know, we joke a lot about in their wins. But look, on average, NIP do have a pretty good early game. Very active in their first bloods. We've already seen that from Shook. And minus 168 for a team that only have 4 game wins isn't that bad for a 15-minute difference. Yes, it's still negative, but remember how much flack NIP have got for being what people assumed is the origin of this split.
Yep.
They actually have held their own against the majority of their opponents.
Their early game has been pretty good. And, you know, you mentioned that number, minus 168 gold. All right, good flash from Prophet. Managed to get that speed boost towards Janna as well. For reference, at 15 minutes, Misfits are at negative 154 gold. So both of these teams, albeit one's in 3rd, one's in 5th in their group, go even to just behind even on average on aggregates.
But that actually is a bit more of a damning stat for Misfits because NIP are a team that people know already locked in the promotion tournament. Misfits, people were talking about perhaps beating G2. Like, that's the different end of that spectrum. So Misfits' early game maybe isn't as solid as we normally expect it to be when you look statistically at it. Now, I'm interested to see how that goes with Maxlaw. He is farming up a storm right now in this early game, has not been pushed away from his camps, but it still feels like Shook has had a greater impact on the game up until this point.
Yeah, definitely punishing Hansama and Ignar with multiple ganks. But it feels like the individual plays of Shook are being undone by the team play of Misfits. They feel like they have more presence on the map because more of their lanes are winning.
And team play is what is actually benefited Maxlaw now because he's 1,100 gold up on Shook, player by player, and he's got a Knight's Vow already. This feels a little early to have this as a big ticket item, an item that can help protect Hansama. We've heard about how good Knight's Vow is. Of course, it was nerfed a little on 7.15, but very strong item for keeping an AD carry alive. I want to see what impact that can have. Hansama doesn't have any completed items himself. Hiku has a static shift, but at this point in the game, that's a benefit from Maxlaw, and he's trying to look mid.
Banshee's Veil gets popped by the explosive charge, I think. But Nagne's flash is now down. Ignar gonna start looking to shoot fish in a barrel. He needs to find the flashless targets. So Misfits extend that lead. You talked a lot about the gold and the CS difference in the jungle. It's a plus 40 CS lead for Alfari on that Gnar. With the Black Cleaver completed and now moving towards some tankiness, it's just going to get harder for Prophet. And as it stands, Ninjas and Pyjamas going to take an advantageous Rift Herald.
And this is one of the reasons why NIP swapped top, looked for the Rift Herald. Yes, they were doing well in the bottom lane, but they cracked the tower. Now they want to get another one. NIP, at all points in this game, no Prophet is going to get pushed in by Alfari. And that is something they're playing with and accepting. Alfari will get this tower, they trade it for the Rift Herald, it'll be traded on the towers on the top side in exchange for NIP. And that's how this matchup goes. This is NIP accepting that they're putting Prophet in a bad situation that the team play can actually make up for NIP.
Well, I want to see those team plays actually happen. Shockwave catches onto Nagne, there's not a lot of support here for Power of Evil. And as I see Maxwell making his way down, just took a quick look at his skill order, and Maxwell's actually maxing Q, the Prey Seeker, as opposed to the tunnels, which we've been seeing as it was standard from a couple weeks back.
Yeah, one of the things about the tunnels obviously gave you the ability to get into lanes a little bit more frequently, the lower cooldown, gave you more damage as well. you're giggling, and oh, he's going it. Okay, I see why you're giggling and clapping. It's happening again.
What is happening again, Stress?
There is a stinger in Power of Evil's inventory.
So what does that mean, Stress?
Well, that means he's going for a Nash's Tooth again, Trevor.
Now the question, do you think it's good? Okay, one guy.
The audience think it's good.
One guy in a Misfits shirt. Is it a Power of Evil shirt? That's the next question. Does it have your name? He's turning around. Alfari.
It's Alfari.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So Alfari fan in the audience believes that Nash's Tooth, Orianna, is good. Let's see how it handles.
I think it certainly has its place, Power of Evil. Watch his just number of auto attacks in fights will actually be a massive amount of damage that comes out. We kind of joke about it, but there is an item that tilts Power of Evil that has been completed. Ardent Sensor. He hates the item. He was tweeting vehemently about solo queue yesterday, about just how much it turns games around. Like, I cannot quantify enough how good this item is on Janna. It gives the Caitlyn extra on hit. It gives the Caitlyn a heal steal away from the targets. It gives extra shielding. Janna gives extra AD, extra shield on top of that. This item synergizes so incredibly well and means Hiku is going to be stronger than you would perceive a Caitlyn to be right now.
Especially as Hiku's only got that static shift completed, making his way towards the Infinity Edge. By the way, Power of Evil Shockwave is on cooldown, so I think he used that just off screen. But I don't see any summoner spells, so swing and a miss on that one. Although it will be available very soon. Stress, at about 21 minutes into the game, Misfits will take their second dragon. This one's another uncontested one. Double Mountain. That is a great way to knock over objectives as we now move into the mid-game phase.
Especially when you have a Tristana as well. You can step up that tower, push it down very quickly. Nash's Tooth Orianna will push down the tower as well. That's what it is, Trevor. They're going for that siege potential. You ask me, do I like it? Yeah, I like it. I like watching Misfits when they're doing these funky builds.
You're a believer, as it were. Well, let's see whether or not it works. I mean, look,
it worked last time.
Power of Evil's almost got max stacks on that Rod of Ages. He's got a plus 30 CS. And now Power of Evil needs to wave clear against this Rift Herald.
He's got the attack speed, look.
All right, Ignor's coming in. The Rift Herald should be able to get that boop onto the tower before it goes down. Small chunk, not the greatest of damage, and NIP didn't commit further.
And a lot of that is because of the Rift Herald timing. Of course, it only lasts 4 minutes. You have to get it out, otherwise you lose it. So NIP couldn't use it to its fullest there. The difficulty of that Orianna, of course, is if you try and engage towards it, that Shockwave is available. You just Shockwave them down. You lose the minion wave, you lose summoners, health, that type of thing. So NIP can't afford to commit when that Shockwave is up and available.
Yeah, definitely not worth the risk. We'll hit a little less hard with this Nash's Tooth, but I'm going to go back to something you said during Picks and Bans, Stress. You talked about a discussion you had with Max Lawn and changing the style. Was part of changing the style to take all of the farm, all of the gold, have nearly double the CS of Shook, and actually almost the entirety of the gold leads?
I didn't get an answer from him specifically on what it was, but that's what it looks like. I think what happened is Max Law saw that video of Levi from the Gigabyte Marines and just said, yeah, I'm going to outfarm him. The 300 CS at 30 minutes video, and I think that's what Max Law is aiming for here. But you can see just how far ahead he is from farming this game through. It's kind of a significant gold
It's
lead.
ridiculous, actually.
It's the majority of the actual gold lead of the game.
About to flame Horizon Shook. Rocket grab into the silence. Sprottle's able to at least get the Monsoon down. Prey Seeker comes out. Void Rush manages to sink the Fangs in. Sprattle goes down. Hiku forced to use the 90 caliber net defensively. Nagne's now jumped in. Rocket grab pulls Shook back. Buster shot sends him out. Flash over the wall for Ignor.
Fari's
now
here.
Misfits are looking for a re-engage. Meganar's available.
But now it's an attempt towards the Baron, or at least to set up vision you can move through. They've still got 5 people, and the key thing here is with the Blitzcrank, if you can get just one person that comes down that ramp. Now Nagne does have, oh, hang on, they got
that's
Profit.
onto Profit. That's a lot of damage. He's not tanky enough to deal with all of NIP. Flash away with the gnaw from Alfari. He manages to sink the fist down. Shook is the next target as Hunt Summers rocket jumping around. Gets the reset, looking for the next target. Ignor, rocket grab available. Swing and a miss. Takes a couple shots to the face by Hiku. Here's the ace in the hole. Swerves around the corner to Hunt Summer. 3 quick kills in total for Misfits.
And this is what we were talking about. The win condition for Misfits is get these fractured fights. Get one member down, then force NIP into a bad numbers situation, and then their composition breaks. NIP rely on the fact that Janna, Maokai, Shen are all there to defend this Caitlyn. And you can see this is the second half of the play. This is as NIP are trying to get down the ramp, trying to put focus on the Baron. But this is where Ignor knows his role here. He is able to just get around that side, get the hook through, and buy time for Alfari to come through the top of the fight. Get in, get shook, and now they try and continue even further on. And Misfits, this is what they needed. They were starting to slow down a bit. They finally got another one of these exchanges that puts them back further into the lead.
Well, you come out of that replay, you saw the chunk damage that Prophet took. That's because he has no magic resist. Currently sitting on 210 armor and 47 MR. Ninja Tabby, Warden's Mail, Sunfire Cape. Like, he hasn't started itemizing to worry about Power of Evil yet. And a simple QW completely chunks.
See, now he's a little bit mistaken. I'm jokingly going to suggest that he sees the Nash's Tooth and thinks, oh, okay, he's going for that attack speed. It's AD. Prophet knows, of course, all magic damage in there anyway. But the real reason is when you're up against a Gnar, when you're up against a Tristana, that's a whole lot of AD that's coming through, and then it's only the Orianna. I agree with you. Maybe some sense of magic resist is necessary now for Prophet. He cannot allow that to happen. I want to check back in on Maxlaw's items again. That's a completed Gargoyle Stone Plate in the jungle at 25 minutes in. This guy is like power farming his way to 4 items.
I actually don't know the rules on calling something a Flame Horizon. Can a jungler Flame Horizon somebody else?
Pretty sure. It's just 100
thing. Is it just 100 CS? There's a few people nodding in the audience, a few people shaking their heads. So you see, there's some confusion here. I need to learn the definition.
I think it applies.
But it works.
For now, you could call it a Maxlaw Horizon, but I think Flame would probably get a little annoyed at that.
Yeah, we don't need Maxlaw to have something else on his ego.
He's already winning worlds in like 2 years, so...
Well, that is the expectation. 100% kill participation, 304. Medjai's Soul Stealer picked up for Power of Evil, by the way. Got himself a couple of
Standard
stacks.
build.
You know, I'm at a loss for words, you know? The Nash's, Roa, Medjai's.
When you talk to Power of Evil, he always has reasons for these builds. He says, it's really good. Look, I get a lot of auto attacks naturally in team fights. If I position right, I can get damage down.
Stress. Don Quixote had reasons for fighting a windmill. They weren't good reasons, but he had them. But that's a different story.
Man La Mancha has been a long time. I cannot keep up with that reference. I'm sorry, Trevor. But Power of Evil has his reasons, okay?
He does. Misfits have 8 seconds to go before their 3rd Mountain Drake. Evidently, Don Quixote not a hit in Berlin. As Misfits
it's quite niche.
It's really
for the
yep, that's very true.
Intended audience.
It definitely shows my age more than anything else. But another uncontested dragon.
Hello,
this wasn't quite this wasn't quite the bloodbath that I was hoping for. However, it is a very clean, very controlled game from Misfits. Even though they gave up the first few kills, they're actually in, you know, a great position. 5k up, they've got a kill advantage, tower advantage. Like, there's an Infernal Drake next. You cannot ask for better dragons than what they have.
No, not at all. Like 3 mountains, as you were saying, like Misfits, this gives them such crushing, pushing power once they actually do win one of these split up fights. But I think the fact it's been a slower paced game, it's indicative of the fact that NIP played kind of towards the late game, knew what they were getting into when you build a Protect the Caitlyn composition. And although the game started well, this is one of the things we've had as a problem for NIP is their early game is good, and then they get caught up in these fights, they get caught, and suddenly you're behind coming into the mid game. And now they just need some scrappy back and forth 5v5s for NIP where they can just focus on keeping Hikyu alive.
Well, let's see what happens now. Misfits started that Baron with triple mountains. It is going to obliterate Baron's hit points. Before we get to that, I want to keep my eyes on Prophet. He's got Teleport, Stand United up. Prophet is a man that has been playing more with the team in recent weeks. You look at his kill participation, you can see it growing. Pre-Rift Rivals, post-Rift Rivals. His CS per minute declining is an indication that he's not only playing the side lane. This time around, he's forced to defend a side lane because Alfari is in such a great position and threatening these towers.
And you can see that means NIP aren't buying into the it's profit or nothing train for their team. A lot of fans say, hey, if Profit's not carrying, that's the only member of this team that I actually put stock in. And that tells you that internally they have a different focus, which is good to see going towards the promotion tournament, because relying on one player always bites teams in the backside. But that is going down very quickly. Hikyu's trying to get there, can't get there in time, but look, they're now low. He can try and push forward.
Two-man Baron secured by Misfits. Hans Summer and Max Law easy to take it down. Flash away as Shook jumps forward with Stand United as well. Nature's Grass comes out. Prophet falls just short of the taunt, so Ignar is the victim for Baron. I think Misfits will be relatively happy with that trade at the end of the day because Alfari did not TP. Caught a glimpse of Hussein and the support staff while that was going on. 8,000 gold lead and now Misfits can siege.
And now it's a big struggle for NIP because that Nara is going to push in the Shen even worse. It drags their decision-making across the entire Rift because with the Shen ultimate not available, mid-inner, top-inner are now going to be the targets for Misfits, and Shen cannot afford to walk up there or teleport in there. You don't have that extra shield. This is how fast the two-person Baron ends up dying. Nagne tries to come in and take control of the pit. It is normally his land, but Misfits are able to at least retreat with some sense of their life here. Shook looking for the engage, tries to get in there. Hikyu's trying to get the damage down, get as close as he can, gets the one kill onto Ignar, and NIP can't afford to push onto the tower because Power of Evil still has threat. Even with his ultimate down, he's able to at least pose enough of a threat with the Baron minions behind him that NIP cannot try and rush and overextend, otherwise they'll get punished.
Misfits Gaming have only lost a single tower this game, and it was the result of multiple ganks from Shook, jumping onto Hansam and Ignar. On the other side, Misfits Gaming have secured 4 of their own. They've got a gigantic gold lead. I'm looking down the items. A Gargoyle Stoneplate picked up for Alfari. Got himself that Warden's Mail, a Giant's Belt. Still no MR to speak of on the side of Prophet, so he's going to get whittled away by Power of Evil, those autos. Or the Shockwave, of course, that'll work too. And Misfits, well, with Baron and Triple Mountains, it really is just a matter of time before these towers fall.
There is still the hope, though. If Misfits can't close this game in the next 130, there's nearly a 4th item on Hikyu. Remember, Janna also makes it even more difficult to push through. You've got to eat through the shield that can be applied to towers. The only champion that really can provide that benefit on the defense. But Misfits, 3 Mountain Drakes won't care about it. With the Baron buff, won't care. They have to care about that potential Lord Dominic's regards that comes for Hikyu next. It's about 800 gold away last time I checked, and that is the point at which NIP will look for likely one last-ditch attempt at a fight. With 32 minutes in, death timers are long enough that if Misfits win the fight, they win the game. NIP can still come back in this, but it is a very small window that still remains.
It's just so tough. Down 10,000 gold. It has to be flawless for NIP. Quote here from Trashy, who will be playing later today. Personally would love to hear about Nash's Tooth and why it's the best item in the game. Well, Stress, I'm not going to hold you to answering that question. Maybe it'll be for an interview with Power of Evil later. Because again, Power of Evil, he has his reasons, right? Well, Misfits are sieging up. The inhibitor turret is down. Ninjas in Pyjamas. They've not done a whole lot as a team. Shook had a few good ganks. But the Shen party in the bottom lane, the Nagne roams, all the things I wanted to see did not happen. Nagne jumps forward. Prophet not going to find the taunt because Power of Evil had a fantastic flash. Shockwave captures 2. Nagne's going low. Nature's Grasp will buy some time.
Sama trying to get in on the side here. NIP did just use a lot. They used a lot of the ultimates there.
There's no tools left Inhibitor turrets are falling. All 3 of them are now down. Misfits so clearly playing the objective game, not the kill game. They're not getting sucked into the Thunderdome, as it were. Just go toe-to-toe with NIP, because look, it's split push, 1-3-1. Get the inhibitors and the objectives.
And this is what we were talking about earlier on in the game. NIP can't handle it with their composition. They need to be grouped together. They need to be one unit to really push back Misfits and actually threaten a fight. Now, Misfits, of course, their Baron has expired, which means they will take a moment to recall out. It's not quite as easy now for them. They can't risk that engage coming. That Lord Dominic's has been completed that we were talking about as well. But there's the Infernal start out of Misfits. That only makes things worse here because the amount of damage they have is already so significant, so far ahead in this matchup.
And you know what? Infernal with Nash's Tooth, triple mountain, power of evil, Orianna. Why not? The combination is just exquisite. It's the best item in the game. Trashy was right.
Yeah, Trashy was right. One of the reasons that we kind of mentioned is the fact that he likes to get a lot of those autos in the fight. It kind of curves his damage throughout. It's not just one big shockwave. He's like, I can be useful outside of this. Using the Orianna passive, of course, to his advantage.
Just by the way, there was an element of doubt on Power of Evil. He bought a Loon Zeko, then he sold it, then he rebought it, and he's kept it. But he wasn't sure what the best complement was.
Doesn't give him attack speed.
With the Nash's Tooth. All right, Sprotle, Rocket Grab is going to connect. He's got Flash and Monsoon available. Howling Gale comes out. Monsoon will buy some time to avoid the Ignite, and all of a sudden, Ignor's down. That 4th item on Caitlyn, and he's arriving! Hiku's putting the damage down, as Shook is the target. Alfari moves forward looking for the Gnar. Hiku continuing to kite backwards. Stood on top of the blue trinket, vision available on him, but the bomb should take Profit out. That will give Hunt Summer a reset. He can hop forward. Rocket jumps into the pit, finds a second, looking for the range, looking for that empowered auto. Sprotle, that's the triple. Another rocket jump forward. Hunt Summer, buster shot onto Hiku. That's the quadra kill for Hunt Summer.
Hunt Summer coming up huge. NIP have been aced. They threw it all on one last-ditch attempt to keep the game alive, but Misfits too far ahead, crush through and take game 1 of this series.
It was too little, it was too late, and the Ninjas in Pyjamas fell short. A controlled, convincing win from Misfits Gaming to start the series. Misfits go 1-0 up.
Hunt Summer did 9.6k damage in that last fight.
Ridiculous.
On Tristana. The resets came through. Misfits, after a shaky start to the game, a couple of bot lane issues where Ignar and Hunt Summer tried to play forward in the lane, tried to play aggressive, caught out, but it didn't matter in the end of all things. The game turned back around. Maxlor power farms his way into the game, and Misfits come out the victors with a very solid lead.
I just feel disappointed in NIP. Yes, their comp is reactionary. Yes, their comp is a little bit more kite, fall back. You see Nagne, Prophet just chatting on stage. But we didn't see those parties in the bottom lane. We didn't see Stand United's used aggressively really at all throughout the course of the game. And I felt like that's what NIP needed to do in the early to mid game.
Part of the reason on that is the Shen getting pushed in quite so heavily makes it difficult for Shen to actually use that ultimate. Then NIP swap around to the top side. I think it's a difficult style to play against, at least when there's a difference in skill of teams or perceived. I think maybe against challenger teams, this is the kind of playstyle you can go for. Wait till late and then win the game.
But remember, Prophet opted into this matchup.
Yes,
Nika the pick on Prophet, they picked Shen into the Gnar. So there has to be some level of like expectation of, hey, this is going to suck for a bit, but we've got a plan, guys.
Right.
I didn't see that plan.
Without wanting to make excuses, I wonder how much of that is, can we get away with playing this composition against a better team? Now, of course, we don't know the NIP decision-making coming into this, but considering they are locked in the promotion tournament, one of the things we do see teams in NIP's position do is try out things, try out different comps that have been working in scrims or not working, see how it works on stage. So that could be one reason for why NIP didn't quite come to fruition with the plan they put in place.
Yeah, definitely seems to be the case. Misfits Gaming got the first win in the series, but it was the Ninjas in Pyjamas that made plays in the early game. So Dracos, break it down for us.
I always feel like he expects me to say something really insightful there, but luckily I have you here to say insightful things.
That was an insightful thing you just said right there.
That I have you. You are here. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about and bring up is the draft phase. I feel like NIP had some very clear goals from the start. I think it's safe to say there's a Janna and a Shen and a scaling hyper carry.
Yeah, I mean, I like the draft a lot. I think it's actually what G2 went with as well Thursday. You know, where you have the double front line, the Maokai, the Shen. You have 2 carries that can actually kill tanks, and Caitlyn, and of course the Taliyah. And then you have the Janna to protect that back line. So I'm like, you know, this makes a lot of sense. It's actually going to do well in team fights if you ever get to the proper 5-on-5 team fights. Sadly for NIP, they never really got to these 5-on-5 team fights before it was too late.
And credit to Misfits for never giving them those opportunities, but at the same time, felt like some execution errors. But the other thing I want to talk about is the early game. I feel like Shook had a large impact around the map, was able to make some plays early game to set the bot lane up for success. What was your impression of his performance this game?
I mean, this was kind of the story of this self-sacrificing jungler in Shook, who is fighting against the evil and selfish Maxlaw on the other side of Misfits, because Shook was sacrificing farm and experience to help his bottom lane. Sadly, they never really invested into like deep vision or anything, so he had to keep playing around the bottom lane for Hikyu and Spartal to play aggressive. We just saw 2 kills though for Hikyu. They're gonna get bot lane tower. This will also transition into a Rift Herald. So a lot of things actually went in favor of NIP here early on. The problem is, already at this point, you can see Maxwell is a level above Shook. That became another level above Shook.
And then another 100 CS.
And then another 100 CS, and then he got a kill in the mid lane. And this is all great from NIP's side, that they're doing all these things together. Shook, Spartal, Hikyu, happy little family. But the moral of this story is you need to be evil and selfish and just think about yourself only, because that's what Maxlaw did. He got a kill for himself. He got a ton of farm and experience, and he was actually way stronger than the Maokai once we got into actual fights.
Okay, but realistically, you can't only always play selfish. Was it the right call for him to just sit in the jungle and farm up and let the lanes do their thing? Because there were lanes losing for NIP. NIP did, you know, I mean, Shen, of course, is going to lose to Gnar, but that felt like that was just going to snowball out of control, continue any farther. Is this Shook in the early game that needs to be more selfish, or what is the key to success here for NIP?
I don't think Shook could have done almost anything different in this situation. When your top laner is losing that hard, when your mid laner starts falling behind, like, you can't blame it on the jungler. I think Shook went to the lane where they had a carry they could play around in Caitlyn, and he succeeded with some early kills. That was really good. They got the tower, they got the Rift Herald. Like, that is what I call a successful early game as a jungler. Problem for him is just the Gnar is just permanently pushing the Shen in, and Shen never got to do anything in this game. And then Taliyah also ends up getting pressure in the mid lane by Power of Evil, and suddenly you feel like you can't do anything else.
And we showed the clip. There's all these nice things happening for NIP. Unfortunately, the nice things kind of stopped there. We took all the highlights we could. Now, when we look at our next replay, this is when things start to go south, when NIP start to fall apart.
Yeah, this is the point of the game where NIP they're kind of looking for 5-on-5 team fights where they're grouped, you know, where Spartal is protecting the backline, but this is Spartal getting jumped on by Misfits with a really good invade into the jungle. And then suddenly Shen ulti comes in after Spartal already died. And it's actually now a 4v5 that NIP obviously can't win, and this is not where they're ever going to get the team fight. And follow up, I like the bait here from Misfits. They know they're going to have to check. We have a Blitzcrank, you know, just hook over the wall. They find another guy, and it turns into a big team fight where Alfari becomes a big playmaker with the Mega
The
Gnar.
saddest flash of all time from Prophet. He flashes his shockwave. He's like, oh yeah, get outplayed. Oh wait.
So this is just the point where NIP as a team are, you know, in week 9 still showing some of these issues where you don't have vision in your own jungle, you are Janna, like, you have to take the long route. It's what happens. I just think Misfits capitalized super well on that. Get the kills, get the Baron, and from here on out, it was literally just Misfits.
And you can see that in the gold graph. Such a dominant win coming in from Misfits. They did just seem to pick apart NIP. Looking to next game, I feel like we did see clean execution from NIP in their series versus Rocket. Can we expect a higher level of performance from them in Game 2, or is this just Misfits being another class of team?
I mean, it's most likely just Misfits being a level above NIP, which is what we have seen for basically every single week in the LCS. Like, our top 6 teams have just been a level above the bottom 4 teams, at least most of the time. I think this is going to be another example. For me, it's just about Misfits specifically. Honestly, just going in and literally stomping NIP. Like, if I'm going to believe in Misfits going into this playoffs, like, I need to see them really, really, really destroy a team like NIP and look clean. And I think this game, Bot lane, learn to ward. That's all in the early game. The rest was fine.
Yeah, and I was surprised when the Caitlyn came through. I thought this was a huge... It was just a ballsy move from Misfits to just give another 80 carry. Caitlyn, I thought it was borderline disrespectful to Hiku, but despite the leads that Caitlyn got early, Misfits were still able to out-execute as a team, and I think if we see that same level of performance, I just don't feel like NIP can match in those individual roles.
Which is why often as a bottom team, you're actually relying on the top team playing sloppy, you know, making some mistakes, disrespecting you, and then you can punish them.
We'll have to see if that's going to be the case. Misfits Gaming are 1 win away from securing playoffs. We'll see if they can take down NIP when we return.